But now you have the ability to have him ready to go. And just going to ask you, what are your thoughts on how the roster shape is going to shape up? Because our other guy, Mark Creams, who was on with me last night, thinks that if he's healthy, he's a day one starter, no question.
Well, I guess I have to address what my replacement is saying, and unfortunately, I actually agree with him. No, I'm just kidding. Mark's a great guy. I love Mark. He's bringing such a great aspect to our website and to the podcast. But yeah, no, I think he's probably spot on because, as I mentioned, when we were doing the award show this past off season, just a couple of weeks ago, or now months ago, it seems like weeks ago, because man, this quarantine is
sucks.
Oh, it's horrible. But no, I mean, I told you that I wanted to make a case for Anthony Harris as our best bench player because he was just that good in the limited amount of time that we saw him. I mean, it's pretty bad. When he went down, we literally both had the same mindset of, our season is in trouble because this guy came in, provided a ton of energy. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. He can play either the one or the two at an extremely high level. And, I mean, that's the thing that we've just got to worry about with him. I don't think anybody is worried about him in terms of him coming in, being able to shoot the basketball, being able to help this team on the offensive end. They're more worried about his injury history. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? That's the thing that's kind of encouraging. Now, like you said, with Anthony or Jeremiah Francis gone, we can't really rush. We didn't want to rush Harris back. But now you're kind of in that area where you don't really want to rush him back. But if you can get him to about 80 or 90%, you're feeling like, okay, we need him out there because you're kind of in a similar spot at point guard. And, you could say, well, okay, maybe they play R.J. Davis there as well. Okay, that might not be a bad idea. The only issue that you run into is, okay, your 2 point guards are both true freshmen. And there are going to be growing pains. As good as we think Caleb Love can be, we got to remember that we can't go in with expectations that he's going to come out and play perfect. Because I feel like we thought that way with Cole Anthony, and when it didn't happen, we got frustrated and really just kind of cast him off as a failure, which he really wasn't. If you look at the numbers, and I've said it multiple times, if you look at the numbers, he really didn't have that bad of a season. But where the expectations were at made you think, okay, this guy was horrible. And that just wasn't what it was. But if you have 2 freshman point guards, I think the expectations are still going to be through the roof. You'd like to have Harris there to help you out. And then I think, if you look at the makeup of the roster, if he comes back healthy, a better choice at the 2 guard. I don't think there really is one because with what Harris showed you last year, he seems like the obvious fit there. And to me, when I saw him play last year, I thought he was good on the ball. I thought he was even better off the ball. So either way, I'm really excited to see what he's able to bring to the table this year. But at the same time, I'm kind of tempering my expectations because, he is going to be working back from an injury. And the main thing for me is I want to make sure that he doesn't get hurt again because I think if they were to lose him again this year because they tried to rush him back too quickly, that could be possibly even more devastating than this past year.
Yeah, and Roy Williams is going to put the safety of his player before, anything, whether it's winning, whatever it is, the safety of that guy comes first. The thing I look at, if he's ready to go day one, which is, best case scenario, it has short-term and long-term effects. I think short-term is you don't have to worry about juggling the 2-guard position as much as you did last year. If he's ready to go and you can slot him as your starter, well, you're already taking pressure off R.J. Davis. And the last time Carolina had an all-freshman starting backcourt, you're going back to the Ty Loss and Wayne Ellington days. Those teams, it was a great team. They fared well, going to the Elite Eight, but you're still asking so much out of 18 and 19-year-old kids to produce night in, night out in the toughest league in the country. I also think that this is, Andrew Platek's final year. If he has a defined role, I think he can actually be the guy that we think he can be. Last year, he was juggling so many different roles because of injuries. He never really felt comfortable and never settled in. But if he knows he's coming off the bench, there's no pressure to produce, because if you're in the starting lineup, you've got to put the ball in the basket at some capacity. And that's what you got to look at. I think Carolina needs continuity from day one if they're going to have the kind of year they're wanting to have. And if he's in the starting lineup from the opening game on, it's only going to help Carolina. But also, if he's not, then it's going to give some younger guys some chances to learn and to play and just kind of ease him back into it. I feel like last year Carolina and Roy Williams learned so much about how to handle injuries, because they never really had to deal with that kind of number and that amount, that if it ever happens again, they'll be better for it. And that's just the thing. The most important thing is we want him healthy, and whenever he's ready to play basketball, Roy Williams will give him the clear to go on the basketball court. The other thing that came out of the interview is, as John Rothstein never seemed to fail to point out, Carolina went 14-19 last year, and we all know that was Roy Williams' first losing season in his head coaching career, which is just unfathomable that it took until year 31, 32 to have a losing record. But it was the first time he ever had to endure that. And it was basically just brought up, Coach, how are you dealing with it? And Roy Williams just simply, as he likes to say, I hate getting my butt beat, and we can't go to practice, we can't go recruit, so I've been stuck in a house figuring out how we're going to get better. And the thing I took away from it is we're going to have an even more motivated Roy Williams. We already know he's as motivated as a coach as there is in the country, despite doing it for 30-something years and as old as he is. He still finds a way every year to motivate himself to be the best coach he can be. But if he's coming in even more motivated, what does that mean for those players? Is he going to be more willing to run them into the ground if they miss a simple box out? Is he going to be more volatile on the sidelines with throwing the jacket and yelling and screaming and having possible vertigo spells? I don't know, but I know I'm extremely excited to see what kind of Roy Williams we're going to see on the sidelines this upcoming winter.
Yeah, well, I did want to make one point about the comparison to the Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington days. One thing that people have to realize is that we don't have a guy like Tyler Hansborough down low where you can just lean on them on the offense end. I think Garrison is a really, really good player. I think last year he showed us that he has that ability to score the ball. But I don't think, and I don't think, it's wrong to think this, that he's on the level of Tyler Hansborough. Maybe that's just me. But, when it comes to Roy, I think it's really interesting because I think he is going to be, there's going to be more motivation, but I also wonder how it sort of affected him, what people have said, and maybe he's thinking this in his mind as well. Everybody has really pointed back to that point last season where he was trying to give the team a little bit of extra motivation and just said that this team, frankly, isn't as talented as some of the other teams that he's coached. And I wonder if maybe he is kind of buying into, okay, maybe that negative reinforcement just didn't work with that team. And a lot of those guys are backs from last year. So I wonder if maybe we're not going to see him freak out and everything like that. But I'm going to tell you that there is going to be more drive. And where that's going to be shown, we're not going to see it. It's going to be in practice where pretty much the message every day is going to be, guys, we cannot let that happen again. That was horrific. Any of the guys that were on the team that weren't freshmen that had to live that should know in their mind, I don't want to relive that ever again. It doesn't matter that it happened to Carolina. That's something that no matter what program you're at, it's never fun to lose. So I feel like in their minds, it's just going to be a team that's going to be more motivated than we've seen in a while, because you just feel like everybody's kind of thinking, okay, is this the end of the Roy Williams era at Carolina? Is this going to become a common thing? For the guys that are freshmen, I mean, granted, it might not be fair to them, but they have to think in their own minds, people are going to come out and say maybe this one-and-done thing at Carolina isn't going to work. Maybe every guy that goes there isn't going to be good. I think that's going to provide a little bit of extra motivation in each game for those guys as well. So I think it's going to be a really interesting season. But I feel like where it's going to show up the most is going to be behind closed doors in practice. And it's not only going to be Roy. It's going to be Hubert. It's going to be Steve Robinson. It's going to be Brad Frederick. It's going to be Sean May. Well, everybody is going to look at last year and say, you know what? That was, frankly, a little embarrassing. We're a better basketball team than that, and it's time for us to show that. And I think, with a little bit of that extra motivation that they're getting from, everything that's been going around. I mean, again, any interview that they do, they're going to talk about that. So Roy's going to hear that a lot this offseason. I think that he's going to be tired of hearing that by the time that they finally get on the court for practice, and I think that's where it's finally going to show.
I totally agree with you. I think where we're going to see the more drive, we won't be able to see. There's not going to be the all-access show this upcoming year. Which I think Roy Williams will relish it even more because he likes doing the work when it's not being seen. And I think you're going to see a team that is, individually, if they're not more driven, they're not, they need to check their competitive spirit because the coaching staff is going to be up their rear end from the moment they walk out for preseason conditioning until the final whistle blows on the final game of whatever the season ends. And when Carolina is driven under Roy Williams and they've got a drive that is hard to match, it normally ends in a good result, meaning they're going to be national title good. Not saying Carolina's going to win the national championship. They've got national championship talent. You add the drive, and then maybe they buy in more defensively, and they get better in the little things that they just quite frankly weren't good at last year. This has the makings to be a quick turnaround from like you said, last season was an embarrassment. You don't go 14-19 at North Carolina and you get away with it. Not going to happen. So, no one else is going to forget. The media hasn't forgotten. Duke and State hasn't forgotten. Some other teams in the ACC that don't beat you on a regular basis, they haven't forgotten. So, you're going to have that playing into it. But I do think you're going to see a more individually driven team on the court. But it's going to stem from the head coach and the coaching staff, and it's going to be exciting for us as fans to watch. Another little topic before we get into our final closing segment of today's show is during all of this, within the last couple of weeks and months of the quarantine, there's been a big movement among athletes about social injustice. And we've seen Carolina players, most notably Garrison Brooks, use their platform to speak up for change, whether it's on campus, whether it's in their community or in the world in general, which is something that we desperately need. And it's something that, Dean Smith allowed whenever he was running the program back in the 60s and the 70s, the civil rights movement. And you've seen that's another part that Roy Williams just kind of has allowed to happen. He's allowed his players to be more than athletes. And it's something that's great to see. And it's good to see these guys know that they have a voice and their voice needs to be heard. It's just refreshing that even though they're there to play basketball and to win games and get an education, there is more to that. And it's good for us as Tar Heel fans to see our guys trying to make a difference in the world, trying to make a difference on campus. And it's why, it's part of when you come to Carolina, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. This is going to carry over in the professional lives. And whenever they're having families that they can say, I made a difference back when we had some major problems in America in 2020 because I used my voice line to be heard. And, it's been led by Garrison Brooks, but all of our other guys have been on there just as vocal as well. And you just want to encourage them to keep on using that because they are making a difference. So with that, let's move into our final topic. And this is a few weeks late because we've been kind of lazy and didn't get on behind the mic to record. A few weeks ago, the basketball account put out a graphic and saying, pick your squad of your starting 5 players from the state of North Carolina. That's kind of hard because this state has produced a lot of talent. They gave us 27 names to choose from, and that didn't make it any easier. I've got my 5. I'll let you go first. Do you have your 5 ready to go?
I've got my 5. So do you want me to just read my 5 off, or do you want to go position by position?
Just do your 5, and then I'll do my 5, and we'll just kind of compare.
Oh man, okay. So I'll do the backcourt first because I feel like the backcourt was a lot easier than the front court. Frankly, there just wasn't the same amount of talent in the backcourt as there was in the front court. Toughest decision for me was definitely point guard, because you got Phil Ford, who is one of the most decorated point guards in ACC history, but